Well, hello everybody. I'll give it a minute to let people log on. It's going to be a long video. I got a whole bunch of notes, lots of news just in the last 24 hours. I have to go to data here, but we'll see. Yeah, I had to switch. Okay. Yeah, switched off internet. It's just too intermittent for the Wi-Fi. I don't see anybody. We'll see if that changes. That happens to me often and people are there, but I can't see you. So hopefully it's all working. I want to start with Rebel News on the Chinese police stations, specifically David Menzies with Rebel News went to the Consulate of China in Toronto, and I'm going to tell you guys all the law and why sometimes regions inside countries, especially countries like Canada and the way we're designed, we often don't know the international laws, especially in sub-regions. And I think David doesn't know how really, truly dangerously he came close to, one, being detained and arrested, or two, getting into the consulate and actually being murdered. And folks, to prove this point, or I shouldn't say murder, that's the wrong word, executed. And before you go, what? There is a prince in the Middle East. This just happened to a reporter about a year and a half ago. Big news, everyone up in arms about it. Nothing happened. This goes back to Vienna, a signed serious international binding law. It was League of Nations. It's carried over absolutely to the UN. Every UN state gives full immunity to consulates. You don't get to just go through the gates and do what you will. It's land in your country, but it's a consulate under a treaty obligation. Canada has them all over the world too. 5 countries, and again, it always goes back to the United Nations Security Council permanent 5 members. They have full individual power of execution, meaning they have power over life, any life in the world. And good luck, as you are all watching Russia with Ukraine, doing anything against any one of the P5. Never mind any UN state, because Vienna gives immunity for all consulates and all those foreigners working in the consulate, meaning they're not subject to your laws, none whatsoever. They're immune from any kind of repercussions. Now, Canada can turn around and say, hey, we're closing all trade with China. Now, that would devastate Canada. That would literally throw us into a supreme depression. Our supply and value chains are controlled largely by 2 countries, United States of America and China. Again, if you don't believe me, walk around your home, pick up as many products as you can, and where were they manufactured? How did they get to Canada? You're going to find a large amount are from China, whether it's through USA, through delivery systems, or China directly. And I should have turned off notifications. It's real busy. There's a lot of news, and I want to get this across to people so they understand. David Menzies and Rebel News, these are the laws binding on every country in the world. You don't get to go to those consulates. This idea of Chinese police stations, I don't like. You can actually do investigations right in Alberta. They have the oldest setup of that designation. Penhold, that's a great start. The YEG in Edmonton, Alberta. You can go to the airport, you'll find all kinds of implementations. You can go up north in Alberta for the longest time, security stations right there on the 881. These are the first and original oldest systems set up in Canada after the Canada-China Sino deal. It's called FIPA. FIPA. Consulates are much, much older, and literally citizens for us, subjects or savages, good luck getting into a consulate of a foreign national and throwing your weight around. You can end up just like a reporter did in a Middle East country under a prince, and we have video of him being grabbed, and that's the end of him. That's the end of him. Nobody knows, nobody saw, nobody has to disclose what happened. That's reality. And when you deal, again I'm going to say it, with China, Russia, USA, UK or France, you get executed, good luck, or assaulted or detained, or all kinds of things could happen to you. There is 100% immunity for those countries, and more than that, there's no appeals process, no remedy available to you, none whatsoever. That's reality. I didn't make these laws. Go read Vienna 1961 on consulates. Every country in the world. That's how it works. The next thing I want to talk about, and I did do posts till late last night trying to catch up on this, so many messaging me, and I want to just begin with, this is on Treaty 6, 7, and 8 versus Danielle Smith's Sovereignty Act. Huge outcry, at least in the media, and I hate the CBC story. It is cockamamie, it's bullshit, so to speak, and it's pure government crown propaganda forever and a day, the things I hate the most. And I want to start with this for all First Peoples. This is all treaty, all unceded, this is all off reserve, this is all Métis, and it's absolutely all Inuit. All of you comprised under the said Indian Act or the Arctic Council and the system thereof. There is zero, and I'm going to say it, there is zero federalism for any First Peoples in Canada. That's been gone since absolutely 1876, Indian Act. You've been removed from traditionally your cultural craft creation of federalism has been taken from you, removed from your peoples forever and a day. You don't get something you've created, it's culturally a part of your people, any federalism. Now Canada's a federalism. What do I mean by that? Canadians, First Peoples. There's a set division of powers for the federal government, and there's a set division of powers for all the provinces. Okay? Those powers given to the provinces are entirely removed from all First Peoples. Treaty Indians, absolutely. You were taken. You were forced onto reserves. 0.2% of Canada. It's atrocious. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the Indian Act. I don't agree with a system that for more than 150 years, never mind the 150 years before that, but the last 150 years, that promises some kind of eventual settlement, and it never happens. It never happens. That system's broken. You are on reserves. 0.2% of all of Canada. That's what you've been crushed down into. I don't care what reporters write. I don't care what Crown sworn First Peoples come forward to present. I've always had the worst time with Treaty 6 of all treaty groups. Worst for me has been Treaty 6. Worst, absolutely worst. And I'm not entirely sure why that is, but I've been hit the hardest from Treaty 6. A polar opposite of Six Nations out east here, And actually, an opposite of Treaty 8, I've had great achievements with Treaty 8. I can't get into that, but it's been pretty unbelievable. It's been great. And now I'm moving on ahead again with more with Six Nations. I wish I could get into it with Treaty 6. It's tough. It's very, very tough. Maybe it has something to do with the coin and the British flag behind Treaty 6. I find that problematic when you look at all the numbered treaties across Canada and all the historical treaties. You see the First Peoples handshakes, or you see the land or the representation of the creation, the creator, the spirit of the land. You see all that, but not Treaty 6. Now, maybe that's nothing, but I think that is something. I think that is problematic for me personally. And I think that Canadians and First Peoples keep getting tripped up on the idea that somehow provincial crown land, federal crown land, is somehow in a holding for the First Peoples. That is a fabrication. That's a lie. We watched the Jay Treaty be deleted from Canada in 1956. Just one of several things that are major and monumental, and people don't look at it. And I think a lot of First People leaders sworn to that first class crown have gotten into the money system, have gotten into that crown system, and are taking their very limited, when I say limited, meaning no federalism, your average chief is equivalent of a municipal councillor. And when you take away the federalism, the rights of provinces, that takes away all your private property. It takes away your water. It takes away your civil rights, which are most of your enshrined rights of many, many nations in this world today. Enshrined rights, meaning rights you're to be born with. I didn't write this system, this broken confederation, but it gets troubling time and time again when CBC writes a story and it's to tell first, oh no, it's your land, don't worry. It's only been 150 years. There's been no settlement of the claims. You're on reserves. You're restricted in water. You're restricted in property. You're restricted in civil rights, human rights. The list is massive, massive. There's so many more. I wrote a whole Constitutional Conventions Act to give the people, the First Peoples, the power, all First Peoples in any province. It's half the equation. It doesn't do everything, but it gives quite a bit back to the First Peoples, and it would give a lot back to the Canadian peoples themselves in these regions defined as provinces and territories. Any premier can enact it. I understand the problematic situation of the Sovereignty Act of Alberta. The problem is there is no sovereignty for the First Peoples, and there absolutely is no federalism. This is the problem with the Sovereignty Act that Danielle Smith wishes to bring forward. And yes, I get it, resist it, but don't do it in the name of a lie or a government-fed mound of bullshit. I'm going to say it again. Only 0.2% of Canada is made available to all the First Peoples. Yes, Métis Alberta got a massive settlement. That was done by William Aberhart. He proved that you can do these things in provincial crown alone. He even did it before 1982's amendments. He did that just from Westminster. He did all kinds of things that no other premier in Canadian history had ever done. Nobody likes to look at that. Nobody likes to respond to that. But it's the basis of what can be done in precedent. And we can go much, much further than that. Settling the claims, self-determination and self-government for the First Peoples, at least dividing the majority bulk provincial crown lands 50-50 between two distinct peoples. And before people say, oh, that's crazy, ludicrous, never happened, go look down south. The United States of America most certainly did happen. It most certainly is a nation within a nation, as are all the 50 states. But they give that federal division of power to the First Peoples themselves. Real, absolute federalism defined in USA, and a distinction of peoples, the First Peoples, monumental land settlements. It's not over. It can continue and keep happening. But Canada, we're 50 years behind that. And every time the news and these corrupted crown First Peoples, especially Treaty 6, like somehow subjugating and having savages is normal in this world today, it's not. It's never been normal. It hasn't worked for 150 years, and literally, since the UN Charter, we still go forward like no other nation in the world, only two others who aren't even as bad as us because we're the original model. What kind of country continues on a broken system in subjects and savages? That's slaves and not human beings, meaning you're not human beings until you agree to subjugation. Call it assimilation. It is become a subject. You'll stay as a savage, or you can become a subject. So it's savage to slave. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I think it'll tie into the next few things I go through here too. So I hope that resonates with people, especially the First Peoples and Canadians who think, why is this important, or who cares? It is important. Land, water, civil, meaning your human rights you're born with. We don't have any. So anyone saying you do, that's cockamamie. CBC, total crown-fed propaganda. It's elites trying to trick you into believing something that isn't true. I don't agree with Daniel Smith's unconstitutional Sovereignty Act. I never did. There's no sovereignty as long as Canada remains as it is. But you can repeal the executive constitution of each province as it's narrated. 8 are all the same, just at different amendment times. But you can repeal those specifically to the 1982 amendment. No doubt about it. But who's going to do it? And do it legitimately. So, a big one was the Toronto Star. This is big news too. So they're questioning the Bank of Canada, corrupt Bank of Canada, Liberals and Conservatives. They scream about inflation. They blame each other for different reasons of inflation. Now, I've taught everybody it's very simple. It's not a complex system. There is household debt, there's corporate debt, and then there's government debt. For Canada, that's your federal government debt, your provincial or territorial government debts. Three. And you add all those together as a percentage each of GDP, and it equals one thing called the public debt. The public debt. Because I promise you, all Canadians, whether you're a corporate owner, or you're a house owner, or a home family owner of all kinds of things and assets in the household debt, meaning against the house or the perceived asset value you have, all of that, plus whatever the government borrows federally in each province and territory, is all added up and evenly dispersed to all Canadians alive today, whether you own a corporate, whether you own a house or you have a car, or whatever your financial status. We all get inherited that debt, and all our children to come, all new Canadians, automatically upon citizenship inherit that debt, total debt. Someone goes bankrupt in a house or in corporate, it goes. So, Toronto Star, Bank of Canada says it's wages. Canadians, you can't make the money. You've got to learn to live with less. We can't give you any raises. We can't deal with the overwhelming cost of living, the higher and higher prices. You have to eat it. You have to work harder for less. We need to lower your wages. Now, okay, so we're talking about the household side of a three-part debt. And when we get into inflation, I'm going to explain this. So what about corporates? What about the idea that the people, through the government debt, the government said, people, I'm going to borrow from your future generated wealth or ability to create wealth. I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to hand it to the corporates in astronomical amount of borrowing. In fact, the Bank of Canada didn't limit what corporations could borrow, whether it was government corporations or private, which government is the largest. Those corporations, those civil societies, some don't even generate any real GDP. The government said, that's okay. Go ahead over the norm. Bank of Canada said, don't worry, borrow more than what we know you can afford to pay back. Don't worry. Here you go. We're not going to talk about that today. Do as much as you like. Fill your boots beyond the realm of this line. Go way over the debt to GDP ratio. I urge all Canadians to go look at that. Highest it's ever been. Highest it's ever been against all of you. No one's talking about that. Toronto Star is right. Now, that led to the creation of money, debt, for the corporate, who is now getting record profits in many industries, making more money than ever, wealth for a very few. Why are we not talking about that in relation to inflation? Too much corporate purchasing power in the hands of a few. But that doesn't count. That is a mighty, mighty amount of the money. A mighty amount. A mighty amount. A large share of the 1/3. We don't talk about that because I can tell you in the G20, they put out propaganda just yesterday. The news continues. If you take a minute to just leave it all behind, you miss a lot. And yesterday was busy. So they pump out, oh, look, Canada's inflation. We're in the middle mark. We're doing pretty good. Look at these rotten countries. And they show all the other countries who are ahead of Canada's inflation rate and where. But do you know what, folks? That shows you the government debt. The government debt. What about the household debts? What about the corporate debts? When you factor those in, you watch all the lines go, and here's Canada sticking out here, hiding the real costs, using only 1 out of 3 statistics to propagate their narrative. Conservatives protect the corporate largely, while liberals do the same, and the average Joe Jane in the household debts. Never mind what the real story really is. Pick the bar that makes it look the best, that your government is so responsible, even though most of the corporate debt is provincial, territorial, and federal government, corporations, civil societies, the rest of it, their buddies. Whether it's the Green New Deal or the Conservatives' financial sector, their buddies. That's a fact. That's a fact. And they don't want to pull on each other too much, because don't highlight my buddies. I'll nail you this way, you nail me that way, but we'll never really tell the whole truth, so the Canadians are left largely in the dark. And we'll point at other countries in only one aspect of 3 realities. And the Bank of Canada most definitely is in this too, under the Crown of Canada. Whether that be Liberals or Conservatives, they do it election cycle after election cycle after every incoming government, left or right. King's Court, King's Financial, It's no different with the Bank of Canada. Well done, Toronto Star. That's a beautiful article, an excellent highlight. Remember, 3, not 1, 3 additions make the public debt. Whether you own a corporation, whether you have household debts due to assets you have, doesn't matter. It all belongs to you, along with the government debts. Another one people asked is in a video shown about, she calls it Queen Magna, and it's a young girl. She goes off on household debt, mortgages, and oh, I know how the financial system works very plainly. Folks, a home is an asset versus liability. And yes, interest is a factor, but you can't narrate these kinds of things without the asset, meaning you've got something tangible. Now, it's different when money goes out like a Bitcoin and then you're left, where's all the money? 8 billion gone. It's a lot different when you have a physical asset and no one's talking about that. That's what's cockamamie about that. That, yes, people mortgage for a home. Are some inflated? Yes, absolutely. BC, Toronto, a lot of Canada, 40% more inflated than absolutely the United States, just in home values. 40% higher inflation. This includes Los Angeles, New York, it doesn't matter. So that should trouble all Canadians. That is an issue to look at. That should be narrated in those talks. Another one that I clearly highlighted is the idea that inflation in the USA does not belong to the borrower. It belongs to the lender. Why? Because they have life mortgages, meaning 30 years at this set rate of inflation fixed, or set rate of interest, so inflation can go up and down. Your mortgage will not change for 30 years. In Canada, 5, 3, 1-year terms. The worse your financial status, the shorter terms, meaning you will constantly renew a 30 or 25-year mortgage many times, taking on every change in inflation, every single time, whether you like it or not. You don't have a choice. Inflation belongs to the Canadians. See the scam? Lender doesn't suffer the inflation. All the risk and inflation goes to the borrower. That's Canada. Folks, this is my video. I hope I explained everything to everybody. Share, share, share. Get it out there. It's important. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.